Hello and g'day. Today's video is a steampunk paper bead. Believe it or not, this is made from paper. This is a little steampunk butterfly. I am going to show you how to make this from start to finish. It is very unique. I've designed this particularly for steampunk. These are leather thonging strips. They're just glued on, so this one's a lot easier. This one's little screws I've just put into the paper bead. Now they're just 3. I'm going to show you 7 different styles of paper bead. Now I'm going to do this video in 3 parts. There'll be 3 separate videos. I'm using video chapters as markers in these videos. Now video chapters will take you to each section of the video that you need to know about. So just say you want to make a certain bead, video chapters will show up on the bar here. So you just slide across, and when you find the part that you want to know about, it'll have a label on it, and then you just go to that chapter. When I make these beads, there are no fast way of doing them because there is painting and gluing in between. When I use the art glitter glue, it dries really fast. When I use the E6000, it takes hours to dry. It's recommended to leave it 24 hours overnight, and then it is as strong as an ox. We're using paint, and because we're using paint and primer, everything takes longer to dry. Don't be in a hurry if you're making these kinds of beads. But when you make these types of beads, they're going to look stunning, and they're going to be a great focal point on your journal or in your tassels. So please enjoy this 3-part video series, and I'd love to see what ideas you grow out of what I've made. Once you make your blank, you can make any style of steampunk bead you like. I'm going to start off by just showing you how to make the paper bead. It's just a tube. We're going to make 2 styles of paper bead. We're going to make the tube, and then we're going to make this one here, which is just like a little bullet shape. And we'll only make this one for the butterfly. And my husband nicknamed this one Beadafly because this is actually a bead. All right, so you can use it as a bead, or you can use it as a dangle and put on the side of your journal, or you can add it into a group, make it as a tassel. I'll just show you how to make the basic shape of your bead. Making the blank beads are the easiest part. These are 6 centimeters wide, which are the length of the bead, and I'm using the whole strip of an A4 sheet of paper. So if you use a letter size, it'd be about 11 inches long. You can make these in plain white copy paper, or you can make them like this using some coloured, any coloured paper, as long as it's light. Don't use anything heavy. But if you've got any light in the black or brown, you can use that. So all I've done is I've measured out 3 strips across the page, 6 centimeters. So I've cut my strips. I'm using art glitter glue just to finish off the ends to seal them down. And I'm using skewers. So we'll start off with our rolling. I start off my rolling straight onto the table. So I start off by just getting it over onto here first and moving it backwards and forwards. So I've got my paper laying over the the skewer and I roll it backwards and forwards to get it trained to start turning into a roll. Then when it's got that shape started, I'll use my nails. I'll put it down on the table and I'm going to start rolling it and making sure that the start of the paper is caught in the roll. And then I'll start rolling it up. Now I'm going to take my time just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm keeping it fairly tight. It's a bit like knitting. You know when you knit, you've got a tension. See the lines in my mat? See how the stick is off? It's not matching the lines. That means I'm going to start getting a little bit of creep out here. And there, it's going to be not flush. The way I'm making these, I want them to be flush. So I need to have this dowel more straight. So I'm just going to loosen it up a tiny little bit, let a bit of tension off. It's like knitting. If you let too much tension off, your stitches will be too loose. If you have too much tension, your knitting will be too tight. So just the right amount of tension. Just let it off enough. I use this to just tap in there once I've let that tension off a tiny bit. If you let it off too much, it'll spring out like a coil and unravel. Now see here it's starting to creep out again. You can use your bone folder and push it in. Just because it's not that tight, I can use that and just keep rolling. It's going to do it again. If you hang on to it too tight, you won't be able to straighten that end up. If you hang on to it too loose, it'll uncoil. Okay, so that's coming out, and you can see if you go like that, if I hang on to it, I'm hanging on to it quite tight because I don't want it to uncoil. So now I bring in the glue. I'm just still holding that. I'm not letting this go. If I take any tension off that, it's going to unravel. So I'll just put some glue on the end here, bring it to the edge. I'm going to spread it out because if I don't, when I lay this down like this, the glue will squish out. And if you want to colour this by hand, which we're going to do, and there's any glue on the paper, if you use distress inks, the glue will repel and the ink won't take over the top of the glue. Bring your bone folder in and just flatten that glue down. The same amount of paper, depending on how tight you roll, like that one's rolled really tight and that one's rolled really loose. So you can see the difference. If you wanted to make a set of beads, you'd have to roll them all tight or all loose. Now, the reason I've used this little stick is because you get a smaller hole in the centre. All right, now just to colour it, you can use a Sharpie, you can use a Copic or whatever markers that you've got. Now, we'll do a brown one. I'll use the chisel end. So you just colour all the way up. Just colour it all the way around. This is why I use the white paper. I don't really worry about whether or not I've got any paper in this colour because I've got a lot of these pens. And do the top ends as well. We're going to cover them, but I still do them because there's always, you know, like you might use a smaller bead, and if you use a smaller bead, any white bits will show. So you don't want to see any white bits at all. You can even dip the ends in another colour. So that's how you make your blanks and colour them. You can use paint, you can use fabric, You can use anything. I'll be back in a minute. To make the shape of the bead for this one, we're going to use the offcut for this piece here. Now we started off with a full sheet of paper. We cut it into strips, 6 centimeters wide, and we had 3 of them, and we used them to make our beads for these. And then we have this little tiny piece left, and this is off an A4 piece. Letter size, your piece might be a little bit different, so I'll put the measurements down on the instruction sheet for you. So we've got this little piece left. I'm going to leave the width at the bottom, and at the top I'm going to find my center mark, and I'm going to put a pencil line there. So I'll find that mark there, and then I'm going to measure out each side. So I've found my center, then I've marked out 5 mil that way and 5 mil that way, so all the way across is 1 centimeter. I'm going to cut this piece away, and we'll get making our little bead. Take your time when you cut those little slithers off, because if your ruler moves, you'll have to cut a new piece for your bead. So from nothing to your marker. And they end up being rubbish. You don't need them. Now get your skewer. The size of your skewer will dictate the whole size of your bead. So to make it easy, I'm going to use this size, because on camera it's a bit harder to roll the little tiny one. So I'm going to start off here, and I'm going to train the paper to roll. And then I'll bring it back to here. I'm rolling it in my thumbs, and then as I start now, I'm actually catching that paper under, and I'm keeping that skewer square. If I don't keep it square, it'll come out uneven. And I'm holding it with a little bit of tension, and see how it's going off. It's going off center. If I put it down, you'll see it needs to be like that. So I'm just going to let it go a little bit loose, unravel it a little bit, and center it back up. So I'm rolling it. I'm not worried too much about the evenness. I need one side of it to be staggered and one side of it to be level. It doesn't matter if you've got a little bit coming down, because if I show you this, I've got one side totally level there, and that side's forming the bottom of the butterfly. So the way I do that is the way I showed you how to do it on the other one. I just use something there to push that in and make it straight. And see how it's tapering there? If you want a really small body, you just take it up to here. I know my finger's in the road, but this is the only way I can do this to show you. If you think that the body is big enough like that, you can just cut your paper here and glue it on. But if you want a bigger body for your butterfly, just keep rolling. See how it's starting to creep out here a little bit now? Just push it in, because it's not too tight and it's not too loose. And I'm just going to get that to be staggering there. So once you think that is the right size for your body, you work out how big you want it. That's about right there. That's in proportion of my wings. I can keep going round and round and round without staggering it anymore. I'm just going to stay going on that one spot. I'll put it down so I can do this. I'm just going around and round and round on that one spot. And that's making my bead a little bit stronger at the top here. I'm going to just push it again to make that end flush. I'm using the art glitter glue for this to end the bead. I'm going to pick it up, keeping the tension on it, and take the glue all the way to the edge. Then I'll roll it up so it doesn't unravel. Now when you pull this off, don't pull it like that. Because this is a cone, if you pull it just here, you may make the cone longer. So grab it here at the top of your cone and gently pull it off here. So that's how I make the bead for the body of my butterfly. So you can see it's a bead, and you don't have to worry about all of this being a bit uneven. It's not a problem at all because we're going to cover it with its little head. That will be the part of its mechanical head. So that is how you make the blanks for your 2 beads. This is the end of part 1. Please go to video part 2 for the steps of how I make these amazing little steampunk paper beads. I'm Donna. Bye for now.